I've also made, I haven't cleaned it up with the T-sander yet, but I also made my additional landing gear block. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it in here or not. The original one is right down here, and I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to get this in there yet, but I think before what I did was I cut out some of this section so I could kind of finagle this down in there and epoxy it in place. Before I do that though, I think what I did before also is the stock landing gear that comes with this thing has only got 2 holes in it, obviously, because there's only 2 blind nuts in there. I think I used 3, so I did 3 holes, and I'll get blind nuts and stick in there first. That way when I go and glue it in place, all I gotta do is try and find where those holes are. I can stick a pin down there and just kind of mark it and hopefully drill it that way. Actually, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet. I may set this on the outside first and drill it in there. Anyway, we'll figure that out here as it comes. But these are some of the modifications I'm going to do. And what I'm also going to do is I've got a piece of 3/8 inch tri-stock here, so that when I actually get this thing ready to glue in place, I'm going to cut this in half, put the tri-stock on each side, so that it's really giving me a lot more surface area to spread the load on any kind of hard landing. Hopefully I won't have any. If you watch the videos I had of this airplane a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it was, you'll see that I was actually able to just come in full stall landings, very soft and gentle, but obviously that's not always necessarily the norm. Hard landings can occur, and if you reinforce this up front, it'll eliminate ripping that out and doing a lot of damage to the bottom of the fuselage. Okay, so looking at the landing gear that came off my crashed Easy Stik, it appears that I didn't use 3 screws. I just used the stock locations, and it even looks like I used the stock blind nuts and maybe even the screws that came with it, and all I did was put a piece of plywood reinforcement in there. So I guess I'll take the easy way out. I'll use this same gear probably, because there's nothing wrong with this gear. The wheels are kind of broken, so I'm not going to reuse those, but I'll just reuse this gear and this hardware, and I'll just drill 2 holes in this, and you'll see that even this piece that I cut is a little bit wider than the first one I did, and it does look like I actually cut out that battery tray so I could get this in place. Okay, so I've got the screws out of that landing gear assembly over there, and what I did here to find my holes is I can just feel it with my finger and kind of see it, and I just make a little X in the covering there. So obviously next step here is to lightly thread this thing in and pop those blind nuts out so I can put the new plywood former over the top. And there are blind nuts. I think it looks rusty or nasty. I'm gonna replace those. I'm gonna get some better blind nuts than that when I go to Home Depot or Lowe's. Okay, I'm gonna try and do this while the camera's in frame here, but it's kind of in my way. So what I've done is, with just an X-Acto knife, I've started cutting through this tray here. It's really pretty weak wood, which is another reason why I'm reinforcing a lot of joints, because it really doesn't take much to cut through this or break it. Hence the inferior wood. Score it a few times and see that even started to break right there at the side. So once I get this landing gear plate in here, I'll probably put another piece of plywood, thinner piece of plywood that spans this area. That's a different, higher grade material, and epoxy it all in there so that it stiffens this area back up. But for now, I had to do that just so I could attempt to finagle this new landing gear plate in place, which actually I'm not even sure, yeah, it looks like it's the right width already. So if I can just kind of finagle it in here like this. Actually, it's probably going to be a little bit harder than I thought. I might cuss a little bit, so I might have to take this off camera, but that's the intention there. Okay, so I've got my landing gear plate cut, and I've got the area relieved here. I took this area all the way to the wall, and I left some lip of the material here so that when I go and put my new piece of plywood on here, it's got biting area or surface area here to glue on. So I had to trim this up quite a bit, but it's the perfect size now to just fit, slide right in there. And what I really need to do is mark some holes here on the side that show me where the center is. Well, if I get one hole there, that'll tell me where the center is, and then when I go to glue this in place, I can center it, and I'll epoxy this in place, and I'll put a piece of, you know what, after thinking about it, I'm not even sure if I'm going to put any light or triangle on there, because I've got a little bit of a lip here still, and I don't have as much surface area there, but I think with as much gluing area as I've got here for this plate, I think that'll be more than strong enough to support the landing gear. So I guess the next step here is just smear a whole bunch of epoxy, not wood glue, epoxy, on this baby, drop it in place, let it cure, drill new holes, install the new blind nuts that I haven't got yet, and then I can cut my new piece of plywood for that and install that.